SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
State Treasurer David McRae is returning record amounts of money to Mississippians, whether it's through the College and Career Savings Program or the hundreds of millions in unclaimed money awaiting your claim. Treasurer David McRae says get your applications and claims in today. Treasury.ms.gov.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
With Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for being with us. Glad to have you along for the ride. Got a few little buttons to try to get fixed right, Lance, and I have screwed something up. Hey, buddy.
Welcome back, Kata. How's it going, dude?
Man, it's good, other than the fact that my camera's all screwed up, and that's my fault, not your fault. We'll get that situated here in just a minute. Thanks for being with us. Start of a new week on Mornings with Richard Cross right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. It's been a minute since we have been together.
Yeah, it feels like a month, man.
Yeah, I know. It really does. We'll get the camera situation squared away in just a moment. For those of you listening online at supertalk.fm, good morning. Thanks for being with us on your SuperTalk Mississippi radio stations as well. We are glad to have you along for the ride. Whew. I feel like I've kind of been all over the place since we last visited. There was a regional in Conway, South Carolina. Since then, we have also had super regionals, and we've got 7 of 8 teams slated for the College World Series in Omaha. Unfortunately, none of those teams are from our home state of Mississippi, but that's okay, I suppose. We turn the page to the start. I can't even say it yet. I can't say we're turning the page to the start of college football season yet. We're not there. We got to enjoy a little bit of summertime, a little bit of downtime, and then we'll re-rack it all and be ready to go in the fall. I did have a little trip with some buddies. I've gotten to spend some time at the house. Got the yard looking good again. We survived some pretty junky weather over the weekend in North Mississippi, and I hope other parts of the state largely did as well. It was kind of a weird weather weekend. There was a lot of sunshine and a lot of warm weather, but mixed in with it was a lot of just gross storms as well. Did you guys avoid those in central Mississippi, or was that an issue there also?
It was just hot. Yeah,
just hot
and sunny, and Sunday's my day off, so I really was able to enjoy it. And then this morning, right before you wake up, and early a.m., you hear the crack of the lightning and the thunder, and the rain starts coming down, and you're like, okay, here we go, we're back. And yeah, you're right. I don't know how I missed it driving in, but all around me was just raining everywhere, thundering and lightning, and for some reason or another, the Lord gave me a little bit of good luck this morning, because I think we're going to get some more.
Well, hopefully you'll be able to avoid it. Let's see, Saturday, about lunchtime on Saturday, it went from bright blue skies to just about as dark as night. And then the rain kicked in, and then we got some straight line winds. We got a bunch of trees in the yard, and in the backyard, there's a big oak tree that about 40 feet up splits into what looks like 2 trees, and one of those branches just snapped.
Ooh.
And fortunately for us, I guess there were others that were less fortunate in dealing with some damage. That limb came down and it fell in the perfect place. Didn't hit the house or the fence or anything else. So Obie and I got the chainsaw out. We got to work Saturday afternoon, and then late Saturday night, another severe line of storms came through. We heard tornado sirens for, good grief, nearly 2 hours, from about 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock Saturday night, but avoided much damage there. Weather today across the state. Hernando, you've got thunderstorms likely this morning and a chance of scattered thunderstorms in the afternoon. Potential for some severe thunderstorms, high around 80. Winds at 5 to 10. 80% the chance of rain today in Hernando. Houston, Mississippi, not Houston, Texas. Not really worried about them. Scattered thunderstorms in Houston. Potential for severe thunderstorms, high of around 80. Only about a 50% chance of rain, though, in Houston. Vicksburg, you've got variable clouds with scattered thunderstorms, potential for some severe thunderstorms, high near 85. 50% chance of rain. And how about Gaucher? Mainly cloudy. Got a stray shower or thunderstorm possible with a high of 88. Winds out of the southwest at 10 to 20 miles per hour. What'd you do on your day off yesterday?
Not a lot. Basic stuff, the usual chores on a Sunday, clean up the yard a bit, get the clothes fresh, make sure the dogs are shining and the bed is clean. And, that's about all I got time for on a Sunday. Maybe a little breakfast. And then, just wind it down. Watched baseball. It's kind of that's been on the plate for a few days now. And with one game to go, I'm pulling for the racers, formerly the thoroughbreds.
I feel like a lot of people are kind of going that route. It's like the team that knocks you out, not necessarily that you want to see them do well, but maybe it.
I just like their coach and the way they play. They just have
play
a
hard. And
good brand of baseball.
Swing it, don't they?
They swing it. They pitch it. They don't make a lot of errors. They're well coached. And when you get those teams on bigger fields, they have a tendency to, talent. The gap sometimes will narrow a bit. But, they have plenty of talent to play. So it's been fun to watch them. And that's kind of my little today, on the today agenda is pulling for Murray State.
C Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395. Give your business the edge with gigabit fiber internet. Find them online at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. Love to hear from you this morning. I want to say thank you to Scott Sands for being with you throughout the week. I was able to tune in a little and interacted with Lance, you and Scott, a fair amount on the old text thread throughout the course of the week. So appreciate Scott and you knocking it out of the park while I was out of town. We got birthdays today. This day in 1891, Cole Porter was born.
I knew you were going with that one first. I knew.
You like that one?
I knew it. Yeah, I'm getting to know Richard's.
There you go.
Musical talent.
Anything goes, night and day. I've Got You Under My Skin, born in Peru, Indiana. Jackie Wilson, the American soul singer, songwriter, and performer. Jackie Wilson, born on this day in 1934. There you go. Smooth voice, sir. Jackie Wilson. Michael J. Fox, born on this day in 1961. He's 64 years old. Canadian actor, author, comedian, activist. Family Ties. You remember that show, don't you?
Watched it all the time.
Loved Family Ties. Back to the Future. Teen Wolf. He was born in Edmonton. Johnny Depp is 62 years old today.
What has happened to him? Oh, God. The commercial with him doing the cologne that they keep playing, and he's like jamming on a guitar. It's like, all right, man, I don't know. You're looking rough, dude. I don't know.
21 Jump Street, Pirates of the Caribbean, and so many more.
So Johnny many Depp. Good ones, though. Yeah, so many.
Born in Owensboro, Kentucky. Natalie Portman is 44 today, born in 1981. The Israeli-American actress, most known for what? Star Wars?
I would I would say Star Wars. That was early in the career, and she crushed it in her role. So yeah,
there you go.
They played in another, just played in so many things you couldn't even think of them all.
Yeah,
Vendetta, if I remember. She was
V for Vendetta, Black Swan, born in Jerusalem. On this day in 1803, you had the first circumnavigation of Australia. British explorer Matthew Flinders arrives in Sydney, becoming the first person, to circumnavigate Australia, proving that it is just one continent. Went all the way around.
A big island.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would just keep taking a left. It's like a NASCAR race.
It's just like, just get out in the ocean.
Man.
Don't get too close to the rocks. Go all the way. I guess he didn't have the Opera House to use as a navigation point.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? On this day in 1914, Pittsburgh Pirate baseball shortstop Honus Wagner became the second player to get to 3,000 hits in his career. This day in 1943, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Current Tax Payment Act into law. What did that act do? Well, it led to tax withholding from your wages going straight to the government. Thanks, FDR. We appreciate that very much. On this day in 1969, Brian Jones leaves the Rolling Stones after developing a serious drug problem. Wonder how that happened.
Yeah.
Somebody with the Rolling Stones develop a serious drug problem. We got news headlines coming your way, sports headlines as well, your Mississippi lottery update. We're going to get on into all of the crazy stuff that is happening across the country. Hopefully stays in California, but will it? Maurice Sanderson will join us, former policy director and strategist with the Republican Governors Association. JT Mitchell will be by, and a whole lot more. Hopefully we'll get the camera fixed. I think I know what's wrong. That happens when we come back. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Mississippi in the know. One morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Back with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Glad to have you along for the ride. On this day in 1978, Johann Gutenberg's Bible, the first book produced using the printing press, one of 21 complete versions, sold for $2.4 million in London. Now, originally, approximately 180 copies of the Gutenberg Bible were printed and first made available in about 1455. Of these, 145 of them were done on paper. The remaining 35 were printed on vellum, which is treated calfskin. 49 Bibles survived into the 20th century, and only 21 of those are complete. Of the 35 million vellum copies, only 3 exist as complete copies still today. One of those exists in the Library of Congress. One of them is in the Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, and the other is at the British Library in London.
I figured maybe Steve Gutenberg would have had one, but I don't know. I don't think they're related.
See, not.
Nah, I was looking. I
Be
can't,
quite the asset if he did.
I can't pull it all the way back. I don't have the DNA service isn't up and running this morning.
Jeez. I got one more musical note for you. Here's a good one. Sing it to me, Cindy. This is one of Lance's favorites right here.
I love Cindy.
1984, Cyndi Lauper. Her first number one hit with
the second-hand unwind. If you're lost, you can look and you will find me.
Time After Time went to number one on this day in 1984, June the 9th. Cyndi Lauper.
And you could have gotten her confused with Boy George, In
looks or voice or yes?
Just all of it.
Just all of it. So, there you go. What's your favorite Cyndi Lauper song?
I don't know. That's where you threw me out on a limb there, but I would go with the one you were playing there.
Time After Time?
Time After Time. That's a classic. It was the first big one, and but I love Cyndi. I loved her sound and her look. Mm-hmm. It was totally 80s. I mean, you couldn't You couldn't have drawn up an 80s musician and gone, all right, well, yeah, here's a better version. No, that was it right there. The hair, the attire, the music, the techno-ish stuff. And it was just, an interesting era for music.
When my oldest daughter, Ava Montgomery, who's now 15, was either 4 or 5, the youth group had a little talent show at church. They could sing anything. I mean, whether it's a little church song or play the piano or whatever. She went with Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
That's a good one, yeah.
And they had it at the Lyric. And I'm talking about, you want to see a little 5-year-old, 4-year-old brimming with confidence. She went out there in her little 80s outfit and rocked Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
How could you not enjoy singing that if you're a young girl? I mean, it's a fun song to begin with, and then you're a girl and you just want to have fun. That's perfect. Yeah, like I said, I'd go with Time After Time. That'd be the big one for me.
Senate Minority Leader right here in Mississippi, Derek Simmons, who is a Democrat from Greenville, issued a press release over the weekend urging towns and cities in the region to follow the lead of his home city of Greenville. By the way, Derek Simmons' brother, his twin brother, is the mayor of Greenville, recently declared a state of emergency that includes a citywide curfew. Simmons says Delta cities such as Greenwood and Clarksdale, among others, should take a bold, proactive step in implementing their own curfews to combat crime. Back on Memorial Day, so late in May, a couple of weeks ago, 10-year-old was shot and killed while riding in a car with her mother in Greenwood. Per a report from Delta News TV's Amaria Jones was shot with 2 vehicles, pulled up and opened fire on the mother's vehicle. She was transported to a local hospital, or to a hospital in Jackson, where she ultimately passed away. Crime has been an ongoing issue in the Delta. We know that. State's most rural region struggles with police staffing levels. Community leaders and lawmakers such as Simmons are working to implement initiatives and protocols to address gun violence in the Delta. Could this work? Could a curfew across the Delta actually work? I don't know. I mean, is that just within the city limits? Does that extend into the counties as well? That's a bold step. I applaud the effort. I applaud trying to get some ideas out there to make things a little bit better. Andy Gibson, the Commissioner of Agriculture, has announced the entertainment lineup for the Mississippi Fair. You and I have talked about the fair. You said you grew up going. Love it. It's the 166th annual Mississippi State Fair. Begins on October 2nd. Time to announce the artist. Montel Jordan, R&B artist and mastermind behind the catchy 1990s hit song, This Is How We Do It.
He's probably printed money off of that thing.
Ooh, don't you think? Taking the main stage at the Mississippi Coliseum alongside All for One. That's coming up on October 2nd to kick off the fair at 7 p.m. Corey Asbury will sing, popular Christian artist, bringing his well-known praise songs Reckless Love and Reason to Praise to the Coliseum Sunday, October 5th. It's an afternoon concert. Ronnie McDowell will be there. A little throwback country with Ronnie McDowell. Older Women Make Good Lovers, The King Is Gone, and others. Time and date not listed yet for his performance at the fair. And then you got Maddie and Tay. Die from a Broken Heart. It's more modern country. Decidedly not Ronnie McDowell. Girl in a Country Song. Taylor Holden also going to join them on stage. That one Thursday, October the 9th. Again, the C Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395. Shaq Bully says a curfew couldn't hurt in some of those Delta cities. A few of you making fun of me for not being able to operate the camera. Yeah.
A week off will do that. Yeah.
Well, I thought it was a setting, and then I was like, oh, wait, you know what happens when you don't plug the right cord in? There you go. So, got it done. California Highway Patrol officers pushed protesters off of Highway 101 yesterday in Los Angeles using flashbangs and tactical positioning after hundreds of people spilled onto one of the city's main thoroughfares. Law enforcement officials funneled a crowd up a highway on-ramp as thousands of protesters opposing federal immigration operations flooded Los Angeles' downtown. As is normally the case with events and activities like these, you have people who are exercising their First Amendment right to protest and are doing so safely, and the nonviolent moniker applies. And then you got the agitators, or the, dare we say, insurrectionists, who are looking at what they might deem a target-rich environment, and they are creating havoc and chaos once again in one of the nation's largest cities. Earlier in the day, yesterday, National Guard troops equipped with firearms and plastic shields guarded the entrance of a federal detention center from a swelling crowd that got more vocal as the afternoon went on and turned to violence as it got late in the day. Protesters, police, smoke, rubber bullets, helicopters overran a neighborhood that is home to City Hall and federal buildings during the third day of demonstrations. And that's the other thing, right? When you look at, we're going to call them protests, we're going to call them demonstrations, or have we now reached the point where it's actually okay to call them riots?
Yeah, that was a riot. I mean,
last night was.
Yeah, that got ugly, man. I mean, you got stuff going off everywhere, cars being burned. I mean, that's not a protest, but yeah.
And one of the things that you get when you have issues like this is the blame game. And officials in California have decided that the blame lies squarely at the feet of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. L.A. Mayor Karen Bass, who did a phenomenal job in the way that she handled the wildfires in California, especially in Los Angeles County, called the move to bring the National Guard in by the President of the United States a dangerous escalation. She denounced raids by immigration officials at workplaces and other settings, saying that they sent a sense of fear and chaos in our city, quote, unquote, and encouraged citizens. By the way, as a tagline at the end of her statement, we encourage all of our citizens to protest peacefully. Not really the primary point of her statement. Deployment of the National Guard troops under federal authority in response to civil unrest is rare, one that usually requires the president to file under the Insurrection Act that the forces are needed to enforce the law or restore order. National Guard troops are deployed to Los Angeles under the orders of the federal government. And Terry Moran from ABC News is getting a vacation. I don't know if it's one that he thought that he was going to get, but he has been suspended by ABC News for a somewhat unhinged tweet that he had about Stephen Miller and the President of the United States. We'll give you more on that coming up. We got some sports headlines. We'll get an update on the Mississippi Lottery and more. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I'm gonna get up in the morning, hit Highway 49. I'm gonna get up in the morning, hit Highway 49.
Appreciate you being with us this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. You want to be part of the conversation? The C Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. So before we get to our sports headlines, this was the content of the tweet from Terry Moran, senior correspondent with ABC News. Now, David Muir, I think, is still the anchor of ABC. What's the name of it? World News Tonight on ABC. But you see Terry Moran there a lot, and he has sat in the anchor chair. Says the thing about Stephen Miller is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy. But that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred only is a means to an end, and that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. A post that was made on X at 12:06 a.m. on Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Well,
Post that was fueled by what?
He must have gone to church because, man, he definitely got a moral high ground there pretty quickly, huh? Talking about spirit and hatred and all that stuff.
Yeah,
he must have been saved.
It doesn't exist in Terry Moran's world. Only in Stephen Miller's and Donald Trump's. Got a message on the C-Spire text line. Stephen Miller is epic. If I see him on the tube, I immediately smile because someone is likely to get roasted. He filled in for Sarah Sanders once and scalded the liberal press in her absence. Nathan in Smith County says, good to have you back, brother. Lance and Scott did a great job. Thank you. Good to be back.
Greatly appreciated.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and in regard to that, I mean, you bring the heat and you expect no one to be able to handle it, I guess. And it seems like the left is very upset at times that there are people in the administration that don't mind kind of rolling the sleeves up and fighting back.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Thomas in Greenwood, a bit of a dissent here. He says, Miller is quite disingenuous, trying to imply that you'll get more L.A. riots if you don't pass the big, beautiful bill. Yeah, I don't know that that's like a linear thought. Like, well, 1 + 1 = 2, period. But a big part of the big, beautiful bill is more money for Border Patrol, more money for ICE and enforcement and removal of illegal aliens, more money for the military. And I think the thought is if you continue to allow ICE to do its job, then you get to a place where less of this is happening. Although the politicians that allow it to happen, and make no mistake, the people in Los Angeles County and the state of California allowed this to happen through their rhetoric and through some of their action, well, there's some blame that goes along there, without question.
Yeah, but the property damage and all of the fun that was had, it will be borne by the taxpayer of America.
You think?
Yeah.
Saw this post yesterday. Seems you blame Trump for every crisis in California, Governor Newsom. Wildfires, Trump's fault. Empty reservoirs, Trump's fault. $12 billion budget deficit, Trump's fault. Riots in L.A., Trump's fault. Is there anything that you actually, as the governor of the state of California, take responsibility for? It's worth a thought. It's time for your daily sports update on Mornings with Richard Cross, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Visit them online at pearlriverresort.com, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Pearl River Resort at pearlriverresort.com. We'll start out by checking in on some scores from the Super Regionals. 7 of 8 tickets punched for Omaha. Yesterday, Arkansas needed just 2 games to knock off the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yay.
Razorbacks with an 11-4 win yesterday on the heels of a 4-3 win on Saturday, and the Hogs are headed to Omaha.
He's going to punch the ticket soon enough. This may be the year.
Come on, Dave Van Horn.
Yeah.
Finally get that national championship.
Best coach in the country.
I mean, as long as there's not a foul ball to catch in, down the right field line, feels like they got a shot.
Yeah. This isn't the
shot.
Well, I mean, you got LSU in it too, but I don't see anybody that it stands out and goes, oh, you can't beat them.
Tennessee and its fans and coaching staff and players were big mad about the strike zone on Saturday and about some of the things that Arkansas players said.
Oh, really? They're upset?
I feel like your argument kind of goes out the window about the strike zone when you get 2 hits.
Yeah.
Arizona went to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, all the way across the country, and this series went to 3 games. Got started on Friday, and North Carolina beat Arizona 18-2. little bit different story on Saturday when the Cats beat the Tar Heels 10-8, and then yesterday in Game 3, the final game, it was a 4-3 win, Arizona over North Carolina. Wildcats headed back to the College World Series. LSU had to wait about 3.5 hours yesterday through what we thought was a weather delay, except for the fact that no rain ever came. There was no lightning in the area. It was just the threat of inclement weather. So they waited and waited and waited, and fans got frustrated, but they all stayed, and LSU rewarded them with a 12-5 win. LSU over West Virginia in 2. Fighting Tigers of LSU headed back to Middle America.
You're not beating LSU after 7 o'clock. So that worked out perfectly.
Any sport other than basketball?
Well, baseball especially, because the train blows through at like 7:05, and everything changes. I mean, if you play
Forget about it.
When that voodoo train comes through, you better have about a 10-run lead on them.
Oregon State 14-10 over Florida State. Florida State got game 1 in the series. Oregon State got is that right? Hold on.
Yeah. Florida State got game 1, right?
Yes. No.
That was backwards.
Oregon State won game 1 5-4. Florida State bounced back and split the series on Saturday with a 3-1 win, and then yesterday it was 14-10 Oregon State over Florida State. UCLA sends UTSA back to the Alamo. They win 7-0 in Los Angeles yesterday. The Bruins headed to the College World Series. 3-game series in Louisville, Kentucky. And Louisville knocks out Miami 3-2. So an ACC battle there. Louisville headed back to the College World Series under Dan McDonnell. And Murray State forced Game 3 with the Duke Blue Devils. Duke got Game 1 on Saturday 7-4. Yesterday, it was the offense that many of us saw in Oxford last weekend, 19-9. The Racers over the Blue Devils. They will have a deciding Game 3 coming up tonight to punch that last spot for Omaha. The game is on ESPN at 6 o'clock Central Time.
Man, I didn't even know if they had announcers or a place for them at that spot. I mean, goodness gracious, that is a
had an
terrible
all-time record crowd on Saturday of, what was it, like 2,200?
I was, 48 people. But I can't believe that they would Duke with all the resources they have. That's the baseball stadium that they have. Mm-hmm. I think the NCAA should have made them bring in some bleachers or something there for. But yeah,
what? Sit there empty?
Yeah, I mean, I guess. But goodness gracious. Another thing I wanted to say, 2-1. Ole Miss beat Arizona in the first game of the year. You remember that. And I sat there thinking, man, that Arizona team looked pretty good. I didn't think they looked good enough to be a World Series team, but every year they just play good baseball and win those little tight games. And they're back, man. See you.
They are.
World Series again. But, yeah, I had to remember. I was like, was that the first or second game? It was the first game. Ole Miss beat them 2-1. So they get the last laugh, though.
On Thursday night, the Pacers got Game 1 of the NBA Finals over the Thunder. Last night, it was a bounce-back game for OKC. They won 123-107 over Indiana. And so Game 3 will they're going to stretch this out for about a month.
Yes, another month, yeah.
Wednesday night, they will be in Indianapolis for Game 3 between the Pacers and the Thunder. A pretty epic French Open match yesterday. Carlos Alcaraz said he always believed he could come back as he rallied from 2 sets down and saved 3 match points to beat world number 1 Jannik Sinner. 4-6, 6-7, 6-4, 7-6, 7-6 to win his second straight French Open title. In a thrilling final, the 22-year-old trailed 5-3, 0-40 on serve in the fourth set, but recovered to win his 5th Grand Slam title after 5 hours and 29 minutes. It was the longest ever French Open men's final in the Open era and the second longest men's Grand Slam final ever. That is your daily sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Pearl River Resort, online at pearlriverresort.com.
From the Venable
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
didn't mention them a second ago, but I should have. How about the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina going on the road in a super regional round and dispatching Auburn in just 2 games? 4-1 was the final. We talked a lot about Coastal Carolina throughout the year because that's the team that Southern Miss was chasing at the top of the Sun Belt all season long. I got the chance to see them in person a couple of weeks ago in the Conway Regional.
Solid team, man.
Lance, that's a good baseball team.
Yeah, I've watched them a few times this year, and as soon as they hit that home run in the first game where the kid parked it over there in the power plant, that was it. I mean, that was all they needed to get going. Yeah. You kind of saw it, too. That confidence picked up, and the crowd quietened down, and Coastal said, "We here, baby."
They've got 2 elite starters, a really good third starter, multiple plus arms out of the bullpen, and as dominant a closer as there is in college baseball right now. And they swing it.
First-year coach, too, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Gilmore retired.
Which he's been around forever.
But still, any kind of transition like that, and you get you back to the World Series. Won it, 2010?
2016.
16, yeah. I knew it'd been a while.
Yeah, went through Baton Rouge that year. Right. Won the Baton Rouge Super Regional in a couple of games.
And that does not happen often. I mean, LSU doesn't lose Super Regionals when they host them. But
you got, 2 of them? The Coastal Carolina one and the Stony Brook one.
That was Stony Brook. You're bringing back memories now.
All right, let's get your lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery online at mslottery.com. Lotto America, still no winner. Jackpot continues to grow. And let's see, the most recent jackpot for Lotto America is... Wait for it. We have a winner. A Lotto America jackpot winner, a ticket matching all 5 white balls plus the star ball, won the $37,370,000 jackpot, cash value of $16.8 million. That was on Saturday night drawing. The ticket not purchased in California.
Yay.
Purchased in Spring Hill, Tennessee. It was the second largest jackpot in the game's history. And so it resets tonight to just $2 million.
Can you imagine somebody trying to cash that ticket in if they won it in California right now?
Ooh.
That'd be kind of challenging.
Hope you go to the valley to do that.
Yeah, or an armored truck.
Yeah. Estimated cash value for the jackpot tonight at $890,000. The winning numbers are 1, 17, 19, 36, 43. Starball was 3. The All-Star bonus multiplier was 2. That jackpot had been rolling over
since the 80s, I think. Yeah.
It felt like it. Felt like it for over a year. Powerball, no jackpot winner on Saturday. It had just reset from the middle of last week. Unfortunately, the winner who had collected all of their winnings had it all stolen, looted. Wait, I'm kidding. That's probably not correct.
Yeah, that was what's funding the.
Yeah. Jackpot for tonight, $54 million on Powerball. Cash value, $24,300,000. Saturday night's numbers, 31, 36, 43, 48, 62. Powerball was 25. Power play multiplier was 2.
Well, the double play numbers from Saturday, June 7, 6, 7, 16, 22, 28, Powerball of 17. Mega Millions, lucky no jackpot winner yet. $243 million is the grand prize for the Tuesday, June 10th drawing. You get to take over $108 million there, so be ready.
That one's
back
a
to
little
truck
spicy.
Up. Yeah, Friday's numbers 16, 40, 54, 56, and 57. Mega Ball of 3.
We had Mississippi Match 5 jackpot winner.
2 in
Ticket
a row almost.
Purchased at Sprint Mart in Columbus. Matched all 5 numbers to win the $56,000 jackpot. Second jackpot in 5 days that has been won in Columbus. Previous being the record-breaking $1.2 million Mississippi Match 5 jackpot. Estimated jackpot for tonight resets to $50,000. 3, 15, 17, 24, 25. I know if you win a $56,000 prize, you are elated.
Yeah.
But you're like, yeah, but could it have been like a day, 2, 3 days ago? Because that would have been really cool.
I even bought tickets for the big one.
There you
I
go.
had
There you
a
go.
fortune cookie that told me I should, and I didn't win, so I haven't even eaten my fortune cookie since the last one because of that. Protesting, yeah. You want to hit some winners here? We got some big ones in there.
Yeah. Lottery offices paid out $1.6 million last week. Retailers paid out $4.9 million. Lottery has completed its May transfer to the state, sending more than $9.7 million. And this transfer entirely supported education through the Education Enhancement Fund. The lottery had fulfilled its obligation toward the Roads and Bridges Fund, and so the excess goes to education. Fiscal year 2025, $103.8 million in lottery proceeds, $80 million for roads and bridges, and now $23 million going to Mississippi's classrooms. Is there a winner that you wanted to highlight?
Man, there's a big dog in there. You had the $1.2 million match 5. Had players won $800, but a Columbus woman walked home with $1.2 million on one ticket. 69 Martin, Columbus, Mississippi. Congratulations.
C Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395. That is your Mississippi Lottery update. MSLottery.com. We got something to talk about when we come back. Stick around. 7 o'clock hour on the way. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
And the hound.
Your home.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
And now, Mornings with Richard Cross.
What's up? Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Lord, I think I'll go back over yonder, baby.
Glad to be with you. It is Mornings with Richard Cross into the 7 o'clock hour on this 9th day of the month of June. Thanks for joining us. If you want to be a part of the conversation, love to hear from you. C Spire text line is open at 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. C Spire, inspired by you. This hour of the show brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services, plus a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call today, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. Richard Cross, Lance Talbert with you, and it's great to be back with you after a few days away, some of that for work and some of that for fun, but it's great to be back. There has never been a bigger delineation between the right and the left. Sure, within the Republican Party or within the right or within the conservative movement, if you prefer, there are spats. We see those all the time. Republicans trip on their own feet when they have power, and they tend to squander opportunities. We've seen it. But in terms of the belief that exists between what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad, what is American and what is un-American, the dividing line has never been greater. The dividing line has never been clearer. The left continues to tell you what it believes loud and clear. There's no longer room for someone to run a race for alderman, mayor, or dog catcher with a D next to their name just for the sake of winning a local election. You're either one of us or you're one of them. We've heard that forever, right? Well, it's local politics and you can't win the race if... Nope, not anymore. If you assign the D to your name, then you are siding with them. Them being the ones that are for immigration, them being the ones that are for boys and girls sports, them being the ones that think it's okay to burn and loot and riot in the name of protest, when in actuality it's civil unrest. It's lawlessness. It's vandalism. It's taking and destroying other people's property. I don't care anymore how badly you dislike Donald Trump or anyone else within the Republican Party. Any Republican that you like or dislike running for local, state, or federal office. You got to vote raw. You just got to vote Republican. Because the alternative to voting Republican, and I hate the idea of I'm going to just vote for the lesser of two evils. Like, I don't like this person, I don't like this person, so I'm just going to hold my... No! You can't do that anymore. The alternative of not voting Republican is untenable for your city, your state, and for your country. Had local elections in Oxford a couple of weeks ago. Had local elections all over the state of Mississippi. Boy, Gulfport dodged a bullet. Congratulations to those of you who went out and supported Hugh Keating. What do you think the vision of Gulfport, Mississippi was in the eyes of Stacey Abrams? In the eyes of George Soros? Mentioned local elections in Oxford. School board all of a sudden doesn't have a conservative lean anymore in Oxford because of how a local election went. Not saying it's your fault, but has it ever been more clear that elections have consequences? Vote Democrats into positions of power and see how it goes. See how it goes. C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Thomas in Greenwood. So to hell with fiscal responsibility. No, Thomas, that's not what I'm saying. And you only listen with the ear with which you want to hear. Even if you disagree with the fiscal responsibility or that or lack thereof from candidates on the right, by voting the other direction, you're saying, I'm okay with all this. You're okay with what's happening in Los Angeles. You're okay with what happened in Democrat-led cities throughout the summer of 2020 in the aftermath of George Floyd's death. You're okay with that. Well, Richard, how can you say that? No, you are okay with that. If you vote Democrat, you have seen what happens as a result. Thomas says, you said vote Republican, and I do, but it's not gaining us anything. Well,
nah, that's wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah, it is, Thomas. It darn sure is right here in our state of Mississippi. What has happened in the state of Mississippi over the last almost 20 years with Republican leadership? 2008 is when the state house switched from blue to red. Hasn't gone back. All Republican governors, all Republican lieutenant governors, and for the last, 4 terms, every statewide office has been Republican. What's happened? Mississippi is thriving. Economically, educationally, and in some Democrat-led cities in Mississippi, you had leadership come out and say, hey, we got to figure out how to stop what's going on in the Delta. Now, I don't know let me back up. It's not just that those are Democrat-led cities. There are serious issues in some of our Delta towns and cities. There are. And I don't know that it would matter
Well, there's some common thread before we go any further. What's the common thread about that district? I would say, if we really want to look at it from a 30,000-foot view, which district in the state of Mississippi it has the worst problem with crime and some of the worst problems with workforce development?
Of course, it's the district that's led by.
Yeah. Okay, just
Andy
echoing
Thompson.
your point, but
No, I'm with you.
We can blame it on a bunch of different things, but there's been leadership there.
Systemic issues,
but leadership
yes,
has been there and constant is the one thing that's been a constant for a long time.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And he can come on this show anytime he wants. We'd love to have him.
We have extended an invitation on multiple times. It's just cut and dried. Sistrunk says, I would say Jackson and Columbus. What's the leadership like in Jackson? What's the leadership like in Columbus? Find me a thriving Democrat-led state. I mean, I guess you could go to Connecticut, maybe. Isn't that where that crazy Senator Chris Murphy lives? I talked for a while on a plane with a guy that lives in Connecticut. I was like, "What's up with your senator?" I mean, that was kind of a dangerous question to ask. He's like, "Golly, that guy never shuts up." I was like, "Why does he keep getting elected?" Good question. It's a good question. You want to be part of the conversation? Join us. C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. I stand by it. I've been thinking about this for the last 24 hours. The line between red and blue, R&D, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, it has never been bigger. And the idea that you can just kind of live in the middle and sometimes vote one and sometimes the other, I don't know how you can do that anymore. Because when you vote Democrat, at least in the state of Mississippi, you are voting against the things that most of us believe in.
From the Venable Glass.
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
When they play their music, that hard rock music, they like it with a lot of flash, but it's still that same old backbeat rhythm that really, really kicks them in the. They say the hard rock and roll is the beat, and from what I've seen, I believe them. Now the old one.
Good to be with you on this Monday morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Thanks for joining us. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. I want to get into some of what they've said in the last 24 hours out into Los Angeles. This is going to be in their own words. This is no trying to spin it, trying to make it into something that's not just the words of Karen Bass, the words of Gavin Newsom, the words of Kamala Harris, the words of the Los Angeles Police Department chief. I want to go back to how I finished the last segment when I said, if in Mississippi you vote Democrat, like there's no middle ground. You're either one side or the other. I feel like that needs just a touch of elaboration. I think you can vote Democrat in Mississippi and subscribe to the idea that Mississippi is a decade or a couple of decades behind in everything. Like sometimes it takes us a little while longer. And that's not even a knock. I mean, that's like... That's not just in political decision making or investment in certain areas. I mean, that's it in like fashion. Like things that are fashionable in Mississippi today were fashionable in Dallas 6 months ago or a year ago. Like, you can see trends that just take a little longer to get here. And largely that's because we don't have major metropolitan areas. Here's the problem with that, though. How do you delineate between, oh, I'm a Democrat in Mississippi, but I'm a Democrat like the National Democrat Party was in 1992? Hard to fit that on a bumper sticker. If all your bumper sticker says is Biden-Harris, how am I supposed to know that you're really a Bill Clinton Democrat? You're really an FDR Democrat. All I see is Biden-Harris, and I think, oh, you're for them. Really? Well, I know how you look at the world, even if you don't actually look at the world that way. See, that's the thing. If you live in Mississippi, whether it's in a local election, a state election, or a federal election, and you vote with the left, then you say, I'm with them. And them includes Nancy Pelosi. It includes Barack Obama. It includes Gavin Newsom. It includes Karen Bass. It includes Tim Walz and Joe Biden. And you're like, no. But I'm not for some of the policy. But you are. That's no different than picking a team to cheer for. Like, there was a time in the Mid-South where you had a lot of people that were like, I'm a Memphis basketball fan, but I'm an Ole Miss football fan. And I like Arkansas baseball. That don't work anymore. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do, but if somebody sees you at a Memphis basketball game wearing royal blue and yelling, "Go Tigers, go," and, dancing to their band, then you're a Memphis fan. Now, don't roll in here and try to be an Ole Miss football fan and an Arkansas baseball fan. You don't get to choose that. Like, we saw you in your gear, in your garb. Yeah, but let me explain. No, I don't have time for you to explain. I don't care. I saw it with my own eyes. It's just like voting Republican or Democrat. Which are you? Well, I'm a Democrat in these local elections, but at the state level, not so much. And certainly not at the... No! That... You can't look at it that way anymore. You just can't. If you elect leaders locally, at the state level, or at the Democrat level, I'm sorry, at the Democrat level, at the federal level, that are Democrats, then you have elected Democrats. And those Democrats in positions of power align with the Democrat Party. And what does the Democrat Party believe right now? What does it believe?
That Republicans are Nazis.
Well, yes, but more practically, that it's fine for people to be here illegally. That it's fine to have men and boys competing in women and girls' sports. And this isn't like fear-mongering. It's just trying to illustrate how different the parties have become. Late 80s, early 90s, the dividing line was not nearly like it is right now. And it's part of the reason, it's a big part of the reason, a huge part of the reason that Congress was able to work together and compromise and get bills that had a little bit of what one side wanted and a little bit of what the other side wanted, and was able to actually govern.
Yeah, and you remember the president that we just saw leave office that didn't have his mental faculties? About 20 years ago, the guy was anti-immigration, was, anti-illegals, all this, up until he became president all of a sudden, and then let's just let them all in. So even the party itself has run away from what the people elected.
All right, let's let you hear some of the Democrat leadership in Los Angeles and in California describe some of what's going on and some of what they believe is happening and whose fault it really is. We start with Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass.
Chaos. I had talked to representatives of the Trump administration earlier on to tell them that the Los Angeles Police Department could control things that were happening here and that there was no need to federalize troops. And so to have this here is really just a provocation and something that was not needed in our city. We're still recovering after 5 months from the city's worst natural disaster.
Really, what are you doing to help the recovery? Remember when you met with Donald Trump and he kind of put you in your place and you're like, look, we're going to roll back the permitting process. It's going to be easy. Go look and see how many homes are under construction in Pacific Palisades. You don't have the stories of the people who have not been able to start rebuilding as a headline on Drudge Report or in the Wall Street Journal or anywhere else. They don't exist. You can't find those stories because they're not being told. But guess what? Houses are not being rebuilt under the leadership of Karen Bass. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, on X, Twitter, Trump is sending 2,000 National Guard troops into L.A. County, not to meet an unmet need, but to manufacture a crisis. He's hoping for chaos so he can justify more crackdowns, more fear, more control. Stay calm, never use violence, stay peaceful. Isn't it interesting that in all of these posts, stories, interviews, and press conferences, the stay calm, don't be violent is the tagline at the end? That's never the lead. It never starts with that. It always starts with bad man Orange is to blame. He's trying to be a dictator. Or, just thinking out loud here, maybe he's trying to avoid the nationwide unrest that happened in 2020. Chris Murphy, who I referenced a second ago, the senator from Connecticut, he just said the quiet part out loud. If you have not thought of this yet, here you go. He demands a nationwide anti-ICE protest. Here's his quote. "We are going to rise this moment by being out there on the streets." Have you thought about this yet? Did you think that this was going to be isolated to Los Angeles? You don't think the behind-the-scenes insurrectionist who sat by and watched beautiful cities burn and be looted, beautiful cities like Los Angeles and Minneapolis. Heck, it even happened in Memphis. Remember when they were marching and they shut down the I-40 bridge that runs over the Mississippi River from Tennessee into Arkansas? It's coming. I hope it doesn't. But please tell me you've thought about that. Are we about to see summer of 2020 all over again, where it starts in one place and then it spreads? Are small businesses going to once again have to deal with their storefronts being broken, their product being looted? Those aren't protests. It's civil unrest. It's insurrectionism. I know this feels heavy for a Monday morning, but it's in our face and it's coming. And then you got a senator saying, hey, this isn't a Los Angeles thing. This is an all of us thing. We're all going to be on the streets. We're back after this. Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
So much wasted, and this moment keeps slipping away.
Glad to be with you on this Monday morning, early in the month of June. Today, the 9th of June. Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Glad to be back with you today after a few days off. Marie Sanderson joins us. Always enjoy the conversations with Marie. You know that she is a former strategist with the Republican Governors Association. She's been around state politics. She's been around D.C. politics. She knows what's going on. Always enjoy the time. Marie, good morning. Thanks for being with us on a Monday.
Good morning, Richard. Happy Monday.
To you as well. I am genuinely at a loss on where to start. It feels like summertime's when things slow down a little bit, but I think the tweet that was, or the statement that just came out from Chris Murphy, the Democrat senator from Connecticut, that's kind of grabbed my attention. It's something I was thinking about throughout the day yesterday, is that, okay, we've got the stuff going on in Los Angeles. Where's next? Who else is going to join in on this? And here we go. Chris Murphy, we are going to rise this moment by being out there on the streets. Are we staring 2020, summer of 2020, all over in the face right now?
I think it's interesting that the senator chose to get involved, because there was certainly a dynamic this weekend between the governor of California and the president. And it feels like that the Democrats are taking a shot at this issue because they think there's some momentum. No doubt President Trump had the different voting blocks from young adults to Latino voters, or all with him in the last election. So the Democrats must think they have some opening here. But I will tell you that, I'm like you, I tend to go down a rabbit hole, not saying that you do, but I went and looked at some of the tweets and then looked at what people were saying. And I found that on some of these tweets that were, accusing the president of going too far, you had lots of Americans that piled back on saying, I'm for this, I voted for this. And I think Americans want a legal immigration process. And I think it's very interesting that the Democrats are trying to weaponize what's going on right now across the country.
It's fascinating to me. I don't know if you saw the press conference late last night from the Los Angeles police chief, who used a lot of words to ultimately get around to saying, this thing's gotten out of control and we may have to reevaluate our stance on the National Guard. So Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, quote tweeted that, or quote posted that, and he said, let's get this straight. 1, local law enforcement didn't need help. 2, Trump sent troops anyway. 3, Trump succeeded in manufacturing chaos and violence. And 4, now things are destabilized and we need to send in more law enforcement just to clean up Trump's mess. That's how they're spinning it.
Yeah. Look, it's the president's prerogative to send in the National Guard. He did it for safety. He had, I'm sure, his cabinet at the table, Secretary Noem, AG Pam Bondi, evaluating the situation. It was the right thing to do. And, no governor likes the federal government coming in and taking care of business. So it doesn't look good. So if I'm Gavin Newsom, I don't like the fact that the president has to come in and save me, but that's exactly what happened.
What do we do with the it feels like it cooled off a little bit yesterday, but this mess between Elon Musk and Donald Trump? I think there are reasonable minds that can say Donald Trump does not get elected this past year if Elon Musk does not come on board in the way he did. Maybe not everybody agrees that, but certainly a lot of people think that is the case. But there are a lot of people that said, hey, this was inevitable. These are two big personalities, two highly successful people. This kumbaya friendship remaining in perpetuity can't last. What do you make of the whole thing?
My opinion only. The president has surrounds himself with strong people, and over time, those people tend to move on to other things. I think that Elon Musk was an ally, and I think the president understands the role he played in his election. I also think that Elon Musk, is a big personality as it related to Doge. He did a lot of things his way. It's been publicly reported that some of the things he did in the agencies, he did on his own. And I think there's been some tension over time between the president's staff and Elon Musk over how he handled Doge. Successful, yes, found a lot of cuts, but he ran Doge like he runs a business. He blows things up, and that's uncomfortable in politics, right? Because even though this president is doing more than any president to shake things up. There's also agencies and systems that are in place even for President Trump that Elon Musk did not adhere to. Also, I think the last straw was Mr. Musk's opposition to the One Big Beautiful Bill. I think someone who's negotiated legislation, there's no such thing as a perfect bill. Speaker Johnson and President Trump negotiated the best deal they could, got it through the House, and now it's in the Senate's lap. And, I think Mr. Musk and Elon's entitled to his opinion on the bill. But it certainly wasn't helpful to the president. And then as far as the back and forth, I actually thought President Trump was pretty restrained in the way he handled the back and forth. He showed some discipline. And I think, just if you're looking at the back and forth, I think the president came out on top looking more reasonable, given how he handled some of the back and forth with Elon Musk. All we can hope is that they're moving forward and some of this truce will stay and we won't see this played out of social media anymore.
Yeah, I feel like the words that come out of Donald Trump's mouth when there's a microphone in front of his face tend to be more restrained than the keyboard strokes when he's dictating posts to Truth Social or to X. It's like he uses the flamethrower there, but then there's a little more diplomacy when the words are actually coming out of his mouth and he's surrounded by reporters.
I think so. And look, everything President Trump does is intentional. I think people who didn't realize that in the past, I think are accepting that. If he's fanning the flames, he's doing it on purpose. If he's more restrained, he's doing it on purpose. Certainly he listens to his staff, but a lot of what the president does is what the president thinks and does in that moment.
It really is a fascinating dynamic. You talked about Doge and the cuts and the things that were identified, but also there being kind of a Lone Ranger aspect to that. Is it the most recent clear illustration that campaigning and governing are not remotely the same thing?
They are very different. It is harder to govern than it is to campaign. With that said, I think this president is attempting to do the big items he campaigned on in the first 180 days, or at least the first year. And that's why you see him pushing so much out in an aggressive posture. It is really, really hard to pass an agenda and get hard things done during an election year. We're in June. By the time we get to November and December, we will start midterm elections. And so I think you're seeing him try and deliver on immigration, the economy, the trade imbalance, things like that as quick as he can, because it is hard to do that if we don't get it done in 2025.
There's no question about that. It gets late in a hurry with our election cycles now. Quick thought before the break, and then I want you to take us inside the way governors' associations work on the other side of the timeout, because there was a pretty fascinating statement of unanimity from the Democrat Governors Association last night with regard to what's going on in California. But I think the last time we talked about how the court system trying to keep up with what was going on right now was like drinking out of a fire hose, right? You had district courts all over the place issuing rulings. The docket at the Supreme Court was backed up. There have been people who've not been entirely pleased with the Supreme Court and some of the decisions that have come down. In the balance, though, is the Supreme Court siding more with the president or more with the district court judges?
Well, I think it's a draw. I think you're seeing some decisions aligned to the president and some not. And it really is hard sometimes to guess where they're going to land. Today's a big day. You have the president's team working on a response to the latest court decision on his trade power, if you will, while they're also negotiating a second negotiation with China and London. So, I think it remains to be seen. I certainly think that the balance of power is better than it was, and we owe thanks to President Trump and Senator McConnell for passing so many conservative judges. We certainly don't get every court case that we want, but it's certainly better than it would have been or could have been years ago.
Is it possible that if we look into the future 20 years, that we say, okay, the fact that not every decision went Donald Trump's way at the Supreme Court is actually a good thing, because we don't want a court depending on the way it's shaped in the future, where every single decision goes one way or the other along political lines?
Look, I'm a Republican, but I believe in the separation of power. We want our courts to be independent. And I think either side tends to weaponize where the Supreme Court is. But the reality is they're independent and they make decisions we like sometimes and decisions we don't like. And I personally believe that we're still in a world where we have separation of power. And that's a very good thing for our country.
More with Marie Sanderson coming up. GOP strategist, former policy director with the Republican Governors Association. We're back with you right after this. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Glad to be with you on this Monday morning. Hope your week is off to a good start. It's not necessarily taking the kids to school, but you still got to get that week going, and we're glad to be starting the week with you. Marie Sanderson is my guest, GOP strategist, former policy director with the Republican Governors Association. So I said I wanted to talk to you about this. Most of us that are either talking into a microphone right now or listening on the radio or online have never sat in a strategy session with the Governors Association. You've got 50 individuals who were elected to lead their states. There are more Republican governors than there are Democrat governors. But when you're trying to build consensus between that many people with that many constituents in their respective states, how hard is it to get everybody on the same page? And I ask that in light of the statement that comes out from the DGA yesterday, where all of the Democrat governors sign on in opposition to Donald Trump sending the National Guard to California.
Well, traditionally, a little bit of history, the governors did not really act as a caucus, if you will, a group of like-minded, of the same party governors until probably 2008. And the history lesson on that goes back to our own Governor Haley Barbour. When President Obama became president, Governor Barbour rightly said we should be a firewall. We should be the last group of elected officials blocking bad things from happening in the states. And he was ascending into power at the Republican Governors Association. And he said, and brought me in and said, Marie, I want us to figure out how to create a policy arm of the Republican Governors Association where we fight bad things. And back then we fought Obamacare. We filed an amicus brief against Obamacare. We fought all the energy regulations that they were pushing out to make it harder to produce energy, et cetera. And what has happened is you've seen since 2008, you've seen the governors act like a caucus. It's much easier to act like a caucus when you have a boogeyman. And so right now the Democrats have a President Trump, and it's easier to be on the same page when you have something to be against. And so that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing the Democrats, as we said at the earlier segment, they see an opening in this immigration policy. They think that things are trending back their way, that they can get this voting bloc back. And it's a good thing to be together against the president on immigration. And so that's what you're seeing the governors do at the DGA.
I think you said earlier, and don't let me misconstrue your words, but with this particular issue that the Democrats saw an opening and they've kind of pounced on it. How can that be true? Like how can a rational mind see that? Because what I see when I see these images are campaign ads against Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass and everybody else. Like, hey, they're standing here with this car burning on the split screen saying, hey, there's nothing to see here. Hey, this is just a peaceful protest and it's Trump's fault. And yet, while in leadership, that's happening on their watch. How does the mind get there? Because I'm having trouble following.
Well, the images certainly are not favorable to Democrats. I think they see things happening with, the Cuban population in Florida, and they believe that as the president deports certain people, that the American people will be sympathetic. I think my opinion is that's not going to be true. We know in the election that immigration was the number one issue for voters. And so I think at its purest sense, maybe the Democrats were trying to message on federalism. Don't send the National Guard into my state. I can control my own state. And clearly, Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass were not getting the job done in California. But I think the politics on the president's side, he is going hard on immigration. We talked about in the last segment that he only has a year really to do the hard stuff. I would put immigration in that bucket, and getting immigration done in a meaningful way. We'll have some politics. He's not going to make everybody happy.
Did Gavin Newsom, did he miscalculate when he dared Tom Homan to come arrest him?
I think so. Look, Gavin Newsom, he's going to run for president. There's a saying that all press is good press, even bad press. And, he's obviously trying to make a name for himself in this instance and not look weak compared to President Trump.
Well, and he's tried to soften the edges a little bit with some of his podcast stuff and some seemingly rational conversations. But then when crisis hits, the true colors show through, and it doesn't take long at all.
No, it doesn't. Look, the Democrats are doing a lot of soul searching. There was an article I read earlier today about them trying to attract white males, and they're going on a tour to try and do a listening tour about what white males need to see. And the initial feedback is Democrats are weak and Republicans are strong. So, how do they act stronger? Well, Gavin Newsom's attempting to be strong, right? And I'm not sure it's working.
Oh, me. I think one of the things that came of that was they wanted to advertise on video games. I think I saw that was one of the strategies for attracting male voters. Marie, always appreciate your time. The conversation is always fun, and wish you well. Look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you. Have a great week, Richard.
Marie Sanderson, former policy director with the Republican Governors Association. She's a GOP strategist. 8 o'clock hour coming up with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Morning, Mississippi. You're starting your day off right. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Kinda hangs in the air. Rednecks, White Sox, and blue ribbon beer. The cowboys cussing the pinball machine. A drunk at the bar is getting noisy and mean.
8 o'clock hour. Good morning. Hope your Monday is off to a great start as you head to the office. I don't know, maybe this week's off for you and you're headed out on vacation and you're just hanging with us while you're on the road. Glad for you to do that. Love for you to join the conversation. The C Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. Again, 601-879-4395. C Spire is there for you. They've got what you need. They can take care of you, whether it's with the best in wireless through C Spire's wireless cellular service, nationwide 5G coverage, whether it's through blazing fast speeds on the internet in your home through fiber to the home, or based on they can help you out with your business needs as well through their business IT team. They'll take care of what you need, and you're dealing with engineers who are right here in Mississippi where you are. They speak Mississippi, not some of the other languages that you sometimes hear and try to understand if you're on a phone call. Check them out online, cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you, alongside Lance Tolbert, who, prior to today, it had been about, 8 or 9 days since I had heard Lance in my ear. I was starting to go crazy. I can only take so many text messages of, hey, check this out. Do a deep dive on this. When you send me a message that says, hey, do a deep dive on this, like that, yeah. Are you doing that just for your own amusement?
I'm doing that because you were on vacation and I was just playing with you. Yeah, I was like, man, I'm going to take it easy.
Dive on this cover band.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was just playing with you. It's one of those things I tried this past week not to mess with you too much, or even over the weekend, because I knew you were keeping up with things too. So, and there's always stuff going on, and I didn't want to, lay over too much info. So, yeah, I took it easy on you this week. But yeah, I missed you, man. I mean, Scott does a great job, but definitely missed Mr. Cross.
Well, it certainly is good to be back.
I had a good time though. I mean,
yeah, it was good.
Week off will do you good.
Like rewinding to the weekend before in the Coastal Regional. Now look, not exactly slaving away in the salt mines. That's not what I'm saying. But that's a big workload in a compact amount of time if you're going to do it well, because you got 4 teams, you want to tell the story of the players of all the teams, you want to, do right by all of them, and so you got to cram a lot of information into a short amount of time in terms of preparing for it. And then, you're about 7 hours plus some rain delays where you're kind of locked in, for back-to-back baseball games 3 days in a row, and it's really fun. But it's one of those where it's over, you're like,
what is it like? I've done some color football in high school, but never really done any college, especially at the level you have done in traveling and having the 3-game weekends. But when you have a regional or a super regional, you have 4 teams. I know it's a lot of information, but how does it all flow? I mean, do you visit in the breaks, or are you just doing research? I mean, how does all that get going? Because you guys do such a great job, in very few errors you ever hear. Every now and again somebody get a name wrong, but I mean, it's so much information to keep up with that moves so quickly. How do you do it? And
I'm sure everybody's got a different system. I mean, there may be people that they start with notebooks, right? And they have a notebook for each team, and they just start writing down their notes. And you get information from all the teams. They supply you with game notes and background information and all that good stuff. I've got a document that, Microsoft OneNote has almost like a notebook function on it where you can kind of break it down into a whole bunch of tabs. And that's the way I don't use it for anything else, but like my Conway Regional notebook, it's got postseason info, and then a tab off that's got bracket, site information, big picture storylines. And then I just got the 4 teams, Coastal Carolina, Florida, East Carolina, Fairfield, and off of each tab I've got team information, team notes, roster, schedule, hitters, pitchers, head coach. And so I've kind of got that where I can access it as we're going through a game. And so if, Coastal Carolina's playing East Carolina in the championship game and they've got a hitter at the plate, and I want to talk specifically about Sebastian Alexander, then I've got that right there where I can kind of easily get to it. But, it's crammed for a test that's like a cumulative thing and get all your information. But the good news is it's an open book test.
It seems basketball would be very difficult to do in relation to, say, baseball, which is much more of a kind of laid-back pace, and then you got basketball that is just absolutely wild. Football's got to be somewhere in the middle, but you got 800 people you got to keep up with. So I have great admiration for you guys. It's fun to know somebody that does this and then jumps into politics for a week. You're like, man, this guy, he's something else.
Yeah.
I like bragging on you, though, because I know it ain't easy. It's kind
of you to say that. Football's by far the most difficult because you got so many players. There's so much you're trying to keep up with. Basketball's actually not too bad.
Really?
It's, it's all there. It's only 13-man rosters. I guess 15-man rosters now with the House settlement. We're not going to get into that, at least not this morning. C Spire text line 601-879-4395. What up, Cross? It's rainy in the metro, but doesn't stop the grind. Happy Monday. That's from Hot Sauce. Good to hear from you, Hot Sauce. Walter says, so Dems doing to Trump what Republicans did to Obama sounds like politics. Yeah. Walter, you might have missed the point that Marie was making about governors' associations. So the fact of the matter is, whether it's Republican or Democrat, governors' associations existed, but in like cocktail parties and receptions, hey, let's get together every now and then. Haley Barbour was kind of the architect of the modern Governors Association, where it's like, hey, there are a bunch of us now. There's majority Republican governors now across the United States. We need to band together in a more coherent way and work together to drive outcomes that are beneficial to our states. And the Democrat Governors Association has not been nearly as organized. It does seem like they're trying to kind of move in that direction. But yeah, this is not Democrats are doing to Trump what Republicans did to Obama. I don't think we're talking about the same thing. This was just a press release where all the Democrat governors signed on that they released condemning Trump sending the National Guard to California. So, I mean, I guess in a sense what you're saying is accurate, but if you dig below the surface, there's not nearly the coordination that was there otherwise. You can join us in the conversation, 601-879-4395.
What was it that the Republicans actually did to Obama? I'm just kind of trying to think back on this. But
yeah, it was what Marie was talking about, where you had states that were trying to band together to oppose Obamacare. Didn't really work. Still became legislation, and some of the other policies that.
But there was a constitutional question there. I mean, that was more of a whether this was constitutional to mandate the American people buy something and then be potentially restricted and have taxes withheld because they didn't. I don't understand what the poster was referring to as what Republicans did to Obama. I mean, it was fairly unconstitutional. Trump was even able to get the mandate removed because of that. So I don't remember anything else other than, George Floyd and a bunch of stuff burning to the ground and all that. Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know. Hey, I did reference this earlier. Gavin Newsom visiting with a reporter from CNN last night. This was about 7:30 West Coast time last night. Is throwing down the gauntlet to Tom Homan a great idea for the governor of California?
Get your hands off these poor people who are just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes, been here 10 years. The fear, the horror, the hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So, Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
Big tough guy Gavin Newsom using some dirty words. Serious look on his face, challenging Tom Homan. Challenging Tom Homan. Let's get it over with. Arrest me, tough guy. Tough talking Gavin Newsom. It's an interesting look for the man in the Gucci suits. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight. 6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight.
From the Venable Glass.
Want to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk, Mississippi.
What kind of a Monday would it be, Lance, if we couldn't spend a little bit of time talking about a musical, talking about Broadway?
Hey, bring it on.
Oh, but I think I've got an angle for you here. I think you might be able to get on board with this. Last night was what some call Broadway's biggest night, the 2025 Tony Awards. That's Broadway's award show, right? I mean, if you don't know what the Tonys are, it's kind of like the Oscars or the Emmys or whatever else, whatever other awards, the Golden Globes, except it's for stage. And if how many listeners does this show have? C-Spire text line 601-879-4395. Hard to gauge.
3 million
exactly.
at least, yeah.
Do you mean just on the radio, or do you mean on the radio, online, via the podcast, and streaming at SuperTalk TV? I would say it's in the low hundreds of thousands. Guessing? Maybe more? Maybe less? I mean, probably more than you really want to know, but Mississippi is unique in that it's only got a couple of markets that are rated, and those ratings are actually kind of skewed and maybe not nearly as accurate as you would like. If we could put tracking devices on radios, we could have a much more accurate number. That'd be awesome. Except for the fact that it wouldn't be awesome at all because we don't want to live in, Big Brother is watching state.
We could hire Palantir to do that, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll get back to you on that. So Broadway's biggest night, the Tony Awards. Oprah was there, Clooney was there, Samuel L. was there, and others. Lots and lots and lots of others. A lot of weird outfits. But the big hootenanny last night, I don't think I've used hootenanny in a while, maybe ever, was the original company from Hamilton performing a montage of hits from the highly awarded musical on its 10-year anniversary. So when Hamilton was up for its Tony Awards, it just swept it. It won everything. Lead, supporting, music, musical score, stage, dance. Like, I don't even know what the categories are. It won them all. And I will tell you, I have seen Hamilton on Broadway, and it is phenomenal.
That was the one that you went to recently, right? And you liked some of it last year or so?
No, I've not. It's been a couple of years since I've seen it 2 or 3 times. And it's been made into a movie and the whole deal. The music, like, there's so much genius in the writing and the way it was written. Lin-Manuel Miranda is a genius. Now, I could not be more polar opposite than he is in terms of, like, beliefs. It's a fascinating deal. I think, at least I have tried to separate political beliefs from being able to enjoy creative content. Like, you watch tons of movies, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Love movies.
You don't sit down and necessarily think about what a specific actor or actress's politics are.
I don't care. Yeah. I don't listen to their politics. I just watch the movies.
Because you could never enjoy the movie if you did.
I don't care about all that when it comes down to it. I mean, I appreciate their craft, but when it comes to their message outside of their craft, I don't care. I don't listen to it.
You may like Springsteen's music, but hate his politics, and if you get so wound up in his politics that you can't enjoy his music, then you can't listen to it. I get that. And so I've been able to kind of separate the two, especially as it pertains to Broadway. Here's the irony. And this is rich. So the entire company of Hamilton, through all of its iterations, has been downright nasty to Republicans, to conservatives, right? Don't come to our shows, don't watch, you shouldn't be able to enjoy this, all of this. Which is fascinating because what they claim to believe is they want equal opportunities for all, and they want diversity within Broadway and diversity within the acting community and all of those things, but they don't want diversity of thought. Like, you got to see the world. They see it. Otherwise, you're vile and you are evil. And so, on a night when Los Angeles was on fire, literally and figuratively, The uber liberal cast and crowd at the Tony Awards roared their approval for the story about an immigrant turned founding father. But you know what, Lance? We should go to the actual words of a guy by the name of, wait for it, Alexander Hamilton. The consequences that must result from a too unqualified admission of foreigners. The words of Alexander Hamilton: the safety of the republic depends essentially on the energy of a common national sentiment, on a uniformity of principles and habits, on the exemption of the citizens from foreign bias and prejudice, and on that love of country which will almost invariably be found to be closely connected with birth, education, and family. The words of Alexander Hamilton: the mass influx of foreigners must therefore tend to produce a heterogeneous compound, to change and corrupt the national spirit, to complicate and confound public opinion, to introduce foreign propensities in the composition of society. The harmony of the ingredients is all important, and whatever tends to a discordant intermixture must have an injurious tendency.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself there.
The United States have already felt the evils of incorporating a large number of foreigners into their national mass. It has served very much to divide the community and to distract our councils by promoting in different classes different predilections in favor of particular foreign nations and the antipathies against others. It has been often likely to compromise the interests of our own country in favor of another.
Well, I mean, you've given over time, the word nationalism is a dirty word now. But every nation was founded based upon some principles of nationalism, believing in what you have, believing in the culture and the mission and the people that make up that country. And to say that, hey, it's not good to believe in America being great. We've got to water it down. Oh, no. We're imperialists. We're all this. At some point, though, I mean, you got to believe in your country. You got to believe that it's a good place and it's filled with good people. And there's nothing wrong with having pride. And you know, I just think we've made it a dirty word.
Listen to this final line. And I know it's big, soaring, flowy language from the 1700s. Alexander Hamilton, his own words: to admit mass foreigners indiscriminately to the rights of citizens, the moment they put foot in our country, would be nothing less than to admit the Trojan horse into the citadel and of our liberty and sovereignty.
Sound warning there.
Written well over 200 years ago, about 250 years ago. And the story of the man who wrote those words was turned into a musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda and acted out on stages all across the country, first Broadway and then in touring acts. And last night they celebrated the 10-year anniversary with a liberal audience, a Democrat audience largely, that is focused on illegal immigration as the issue of the day. Fight for the rights of illegals. When the man who about you were writing had those words, you can't allow unfettered access to your country by those from foreign nations. You're setting yourself up for failure. The irony of the two is so thick. It's so rich. I wonder if anybody in the audience thought about that.
Of course
as they
not.
roared applause, a long standing ovation.
That's history, man. That's not taught anymore, remember?
It's history about the guy for which the musical was made that they were standing and applauding. Alexander Hamilton. My name is Alexander Hamilton. JT Mitchell joins us next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
I'd study in cartoons, radio, music, TV, movies, magazine.
From the Seabrook, get the inside track on Mississippi politics. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
This is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. And my guest, our family, JT Mitchell, Super Talk, Mississippi news director, joins us on Monday mornings. And so he is right there in the big chair. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Richard. How are you, man? Long time no talk.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Outside of a little Red Sox-Yankees smack talk.
I'm sorry, did they play this weekend?
2 out of 3, baby.
Yeah, well.
Hey, they'll play again this weekend.
And then again in 3 weeks, and
Right.
like a month after that, and yeah, there's a lot more to go on. Buc-ee's, it's open, right? Buc-ee's on the coast.
Officially open 2 hours and 38 minutes ago. I don't have an exact count on how many customers have already made it, but I imagine it's in the hundreds and going to be in the thousands here shortly, if not already. I mean, the beaver fever is real. I can tell you that. So yes, it's been open since 6 a.m. It's in Harrison County, right off I-10 on the Minge Avenue exit. And it'll be a lot busier at 10 a.m. when they hold the official ribbon cutting. But it's here. I mean, I feel like we have been talking about this for years.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
We've had multiple delays, and that's just natural when you have construction going on. But it's here. It's finally here. WLOX, our friends down there, they did some interviews over the weekend with people who live next to the Buc-ee's, and they were fired up. I mean, they spoke to a lady. She said, I don't care if it's morning, day, night, I'm going to be at Buc-ee's. And I think a lot of people are in that same boat.
So had a trip with some buddies last week, and we were making our way east on I-20, and we kind of planned the stops around Leeds, Alabama.
I'm sure y'all did.
We're going to stop on the way, and we're going to stop on the way back through. So it was breakfast on the way, and a good breakfast, and then it was dinner coming back through.
What you get?
I actually, the Club Melt is kind of my go-to sandwich. Now, the brisket is really, really good.
So good.
Really good. But I like the Club Melt that they've got there.
I mean, you can't go wrong with really anything. And you got the beaver nuggets, you got the kolaches, you got all the candy you could imagine. I mean, I love the beaver-shaped peanut butter cup. It really is the Disney World of gas stations. And they're up and rolling in Harrison County. People are stoked. We'll, of course, have somebody at the ribbon cutting, so you can stay tuned on that front. But it'll probably take me a couple months to go. I'm going to let it simmer down a bit.
Do we know specifically how many gas pumps they've got?
Yeah, it's over 100 is what they put out there. But if my count is correct, 124, I believe.
Okay.
And then you have over 20 EV charging stations. And I do want to clarify something real quick. Initially, they were planning to do a car wash down there. You may not remember this, but up in the Northeast, I believe, or maybe it was in Texas, doesn't matter. Buc-ee's broke the world record for longest car wash. And that is not out of the picture yet for our Harrison County location, because I'm sure as the success story continues to play out, they'll add on. And but as of now, no car wash, maybe in the future.
Okay. Good to know. Rocky and Marks wants to know what beaver nuggets are.
Oh, you got to go. I mean, beaver nuggets, Rebecca and Rhino actually had some delivered to them, but it's the corn puffs. How do you explain it? Kind of like the caramel popcorn.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Like Bucky's branded Crunch and Munch.
That's exactly right. Yep. Rhino and Rebecca were talking about it one day, and they had the same question. And somebody brought them beaver nuggets, because we don't have a Bucky's here at the flagship station, near the flagship station, that is. But who knows? Maybe Bucky's will do so well in Harrison County that they'll open a few more in Central and North Mississippi. I know Hinds County would love one. DeSoto County would love one. There's a lot of people who would love one.
Lance, I got I didn't get beaver nuggets. I just got chips. But I got Bucky's brand spicy dill pickle chips.
Oh man, I'd crush those.
They were good.
Richard, you should have tagged along with me yesterday. I went to the Mississippi Pickle Festival.
Yeah?
It was amazing. I mean, I had never been. This is the 5th year they've done it, and I think the total number will probably come to 15,000 people who showed up, and it was pickles galore. I had what you call a pickle dog. It is a corn dog, but the actual weenie is inside of a pickle, and they fry it up. It looked like a freaking turkey leg, but man, it was good.
Chris in Oxford says he thought that beaver nuggets were more like Chevy Chase eating rooster fries before he figured out what they actually were.
Delicious, yeah. Funny Farm?
Not exactly the same thing, no. We talked about this in our news headlines back in the 6 o'clock hour, but probably largely a new audience. An interesting story out of the Mississippi Delta. Derek Simmons, who's the minority leader there in the House, encouraging Delta towns to follow the lead of Greenville and install a Delta-wide curfew.
Yeah, this is an interesting story because we have seen youth curfews in other parts of the state. Jackson did it. Vicksburg did it. Maybe it was Horn Lake. Somewhere in DeSoto County did it as well, but they were temporary, and they had the same goal as what Senator Simmons is calling for here. And you see a lot of this crime that's coming from the youth population. And it is summertime, where there's no school, and unless you are enrolled in different camps or you work, the youth have a lot of time on their hands. And not all youth are out there committing crimes, do not get me wrong, but the data adds up, right? And so Senator Simmons is calling for a Delta-wide, that's the entire region, a Delta-wide curfew that would ultimately be for all ages. And the goal of it is to curb gun violence. So you may not know this, but Senator Derek Simmons, his brother, Eric Simmons, is the mayor of Greenville. They're both from Greenville. And Greenville recently declared a state of emergency over crime, and that included a curfew. So Eric's brother, Derek, said, hey, maybe we should do this across the entire Delta. That includes Clarksdale, Greenwood, every other town and city, in hopes of getting violent crime under control. I was thinking back to some recent crime stories in the Delta that we've covered, and my mind initially shot back to Memorial Day. Everybody was off. Of course, news was working, as every other news outlet across the state was. And I remember, this was just a couple weeks ago, right? A 10-year-old was shot and killed in Greenwood. She was riding with her mother back from the beauty salon or the beauty shop, and 2 cars pulled up on them as they were under a bypass, and boom, 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 just started unloading fire on this car. And the 10-year-old, Zamaria Jones, she was shot and killed. She did get transported to the Children's Hospital in Jackson, but she succumbed to her injuries. And that is hapless, unfortunate crime. A freaking 5th grader, right? It's terrible. And Senator Simmons, he said this. He said this would be a bold, proactive step where the communities in the Delta no longer have to wait until tragedy strikes to respond. Quote, our children and communities deserve safe streets, peaceful summers, and a future free of fear.
And I agree with everything that Senator Simmons says there. But the counter to that is you are pretty significantly stepping on people's freedoms when you say there is a Delta-wide curfew in place in which not just kids, but I guess we're saying everybody's got to be home at a certain period of time. You can't be out on the streets. You can't be in the areas. I mean, I'm assuming that this is not that broad of an order. Like, what's included here? What are we actually proposing?
And that is worth clarification because the press release, while it was powerful, it did
short on details,
leave
right?
me asking some questions because it could be argued as, okay, if I'm 35 years old and I need something from Walmart at midnight, why can I not go to Walmart at midnight? Just an example there. And so maybe it would be different municipalities deciding exactly what they want to do. Would it just be for youth? What would the time be? When can they be back on the streets? Would it be from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. for everybody under the age of 18 unless they are working or with a guardian? I don't know. But all I do know...
But a lot of these crimes that we're talking about are committed by adults, not teenagers.
You are absolutely correct. And part of it is...
But if I need to run to Kroger and grab a half gallon of milk at 10:30 so we can eat cereal the next morning and not have it dry... So now there's a curfew that says I can't do that? Got to go to the airport in the morning. Don't really want to stop for gas. I'm going to run at 11 tonight and fill my truck up with gas. Oh, nope, you can't do that, Richard. Curfew's in place. That's this strike, like, while well-intended, and I do believe that this is with good intentions. Like, they're throwing up their hands saying, what do we do? I'm not sure this is the answer. We'll be right back with JT.
From the Venable Glass.
Mississippi in the know. One morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us. Final segment of Mornings with Richard Cross on this Monday morning, the 9th of June. Glad to be with you alongside Lance Tolbert. I'm Richard Cross, JT Mitchell, news director with the SuperTalk Mississippi news team, joining us in studio this morning. So last Tuesday, 6 days ago, we had the municipal elections across the state of Mississippi. One of the things that stood out to me was there was so much talk about the Jackson mayoral race leading up to the primary, and once we got through the primary, it was basically a foregone conclusion that John Horn would just kind of coast to the finish line. Not that he did that from a campaign standpoint, but there wasn't a lot of drama left. All of the drama switched to the coast and to Gulfport, where ultimately Hugh Keating won that mayoral election. So now that the elections are in the rearview mirror, that we're moving toward these people being sworn into office, what's next?
Well, what's next is we do have a couple of different races that it may take until Friday the 13th to get officially called. I mean, you think about it, this cycle, the primary was on April Fool's, and some of the elections might not be certified until Friday the 13th. But after that, July 1 is when all of these new leaders will get sworn in or reelected. If they were reelected, they'll get sworn in as well.
Yeah,
that is
but 3 weeks.
July 1st. And you make a great point. I mean, the Democratic primary and the subsequent runoff in Jackson is really what had all eyes turned toward it during the month of April. And then State Senator John Horn, he may have lost around 7% to independent challenger Rodney DePriest, but he still won with 67% of the vote, over actually. But between the primaries and the general election, Gulfport became the talk of the town, the talk of the state, even the talk of the region for some people, But Hugh Keating, he did win that. He had about 53.2% of the votes, so it was close. And Democrat Sonia Williams-Barnes, she ran a great campaign, 46.8% of the votes. Both campaigns were good. Of course, there were a lot of accusations from Republicans and Democrats during this, but that doesn't take away that both of these people ran pretty good campaigns. So last week, while you were gone, Richard, you missed out on all the fun, where we had election night, and then we talked to some of these mayor-elects, two of whom were John Horhn and Hugh Keating. And so these articles are, of course, at supertalk.fm if you want the full get-up. But it was really interesting hearing people talk about their plans. So Billy Hughes, the outgoing mayor of Gulfport, Republican, Hugh Keating, a Republican. Hugh said that the transition is going to be seamless. And he also laid out, a few main initiatives or main goals that I gathered from our conversation. He said, number one, we're going to bolster police force. Gulfport is about 50 officers short. Number two, we're going to fix some infrastructure. That means better roads, better bridges, etc. And number three, this is what I really found intriguing. He said economic growth is one of my main priorities. And he said his plan is to go inside out. So that means starting in what you would call the downtown Gulfport area, and then the success there would seep into the other communities and neighborhoods, and ultimately results in more economic activity and more jobs. So it sounds like a pretty good plan. Just got to get in there and do it, right?
Something we talked about Hugh Keating with several weeks ago was this kind of partnership along the Gulf Coast with the three Gulf Coast counties kind of banding together in the way that we've seen other parts of the state of Mississippi do that. Hugh Keating was very much for that idea. I know he's focused primarily on Gulfport, but also kind of the idea that rising tide raises all boats, no pun intended, on the Mississippi Gulf Coast or in coastal Mississippi. But it's going to be interesting to see over the next few years if that partnership not only comes together, but then is able to actively move forward as we continue to see economic development across the state.
That's right. And the Gulf Coast is one of the few areas where it will take a regional-wide effort if you want to thrive. I mean, they face the same challenges, and they have to recover from the same challenges.
That's right.
And I know Ricky Matthews, who was on your program, I believe, last week or the week before, he's written a lot about that. It's very true, but I really do encourage people to go to supertalk.fm and read the conversations that were had with Hugh Keating, with John Horhn. Read all the recaps from last week's elections, because these are your new leaders. No matter wherever you live, you will probably have at least one new leader, whether it's council, alderman, whatever, mayor. Just be aware.
JT, thanks as always for stopping by. Great to be with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Richard.
Lance, thank you on this Monday morning. Good to be back with you, my friend.
Oh, thank you, man. It's always a pleasure. Look forward to tomorrow.
We'll do it again starting at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We hope you have a wonderful day.
A Super Talk Mississippi media production.